All right, everybody, welcome back to Skywatchers Radio right here on the Dark Matter Radio Network and, of course, PSN Radio. You're listening live to myself, Angel Espino, and my co-host, Alan Weiler. And tonight is a very special night because, of course, we had Mac Maloney on, who's a very cool guy and a very good friend. And now a gentleman who inspired me to do some radio online. The guy who I heard for the very first time, Mr. Alejandro Rojas, is in the house here on Skywatchers Radio. He is the editor and writer and one of the hosts for Open Minds TV, Open Minds Magazine. Alejandro, welcome to the show, my friend. It's so good to have you on here.
Hello, it's awesome to be talking to you on your show. This is sweet.
What have you been up to, my friend? We haven't talked in a while, you and I. It's been a couple of years. I know you've been doing your thing with Open Minds. Love what you guys have going on over there. I read stories, and by the way, that's where I get a lot of my stories from, guys. Open Minds.
Hey, no problem. That's what we're here for. And, you know, that's one thing we love. I mean, just being a resource and getting information out to people. I know a lot of groups, as you guys I'm sure have ran into a lot, can be really competitive in this field and kind of try to hoard information. But we consider ourselves kind of a news source. We're trying to get info out, and we love it. Hey, the more people that are going and checking it out and getting their news from us, that's the whole point, is spreading the information.
What do you make of the story with the crop circle that just happened? You know, that got me really, really excited for like a day, and then it came out that it was a hoax, and then it got my blood boiling for all the wrong reasons, man. And I saw your post on it. What your thoughts? What were your thoughts when you read that it was a hoax?
You know what? I thought it was interesting. First of all, I'm really good friends with Nancy Talbot. I talk with her on a regular basis. And the moment I found out about the crop circle, she contacted me also, and she said, I'm pretty sure the whole thing's fake. You know, hold off. I've got a couple leads. I think it's a promotion for a company. And, just hold on for a minute. Jason, my colleague, had already written something up about the same time she contacted me. And we just did a small little thing that it happened because it was making news immediately. So she gave me a heads up early on. There was a couple other crop circle researchers that felt the same way. There was one or two who thought it was real, but you just always got to hold out and look for more information. It was really sketchy that they had security guards there right off the bat, and that to me threw up the red flag that somebody created this thing. What was interesting though is typically if you're doing a marketing thing, you'll want it to come out. You'll want the story to make some play, but usually in the past, fairly quickly after the thing happens, the people come out and claim it and say, hey, this was NVIDIA or whatever. But they waited, which was wise. And what's interesting, it's kind of like, I don't know, from watching this stuff, we're learning how to do this kind of viral marketing, because when this stuff happened in Canada where there was a planetarium that created a UFO. They flew it around town, and it got a lot of news and was tweeted and all of this stuff, and it made worldwide headlines. And I started to think, it's taken a while for someone to claim this. If it is a promotion thing, they finally did claim it, and it helps them, unfortunately, because the thing makes nationwide headlines. If they watch it, and when the story starts to die off, then claim that, or come out and say, hey, that was us, it just renews the news cycle, whereas, oh, hey, we got something else to write about, we had this story that was really big, now we've got a big update, and then they're going to tie their name to the marketing on the big update, and everybody's going to write about it all over the world. Fortunate, these things really work. These guys made some worldwide headlines, and now their news is out there, and people are looking at their stuff, so unfortunately this works, so here again, I'm sure more and more people are going to start doing this.
Which is really my thing with, and Alejandro, you know how I feel about the whole ufology community and how I feel about a lot of the hoaxing that goes on. This sets us back a few years, doesn't it, as a community, as a ufology research community? When stuff like this happens, it becomes a viral video, people get fooled, and it turns out it's a hoax. Next time when there's a real one, people are going to be like, it's just another hoax like the last one, and they don't pay any attention to it because of stuff like this. And hoaxes like this, it's really not good for the entire thing.
Well, you know what? I try not to look at it that way because if I was to look at what was bad for this field, I would be extremely frustrated, and I probably would have jumped off a bridge or something already.
No kidding.
So I try to kind of take it as it comes and adapt in that live in the here and now type of, using my Buddhist type of philosophies, because we just can't get frustrated. I think we have to deal with it because this campaign and the Canadian ones were so successful. No doubt we're going to see it more again. So we're just going to have to be smart about it. What we always try to do is get a story up there as quick as possible, and then also hopefully tie in some credible stuff. When I did my follow-up, I wrote about how a lot of the crop circle experts had right off the bat called it a hoax. So just to demonstrate that, these experts know what they're talking about. They know the difference between a hoax and something more mysterious, and there are mysterious things out there.
It's funny what it turned out to be, though, just a marketing campaign for a graphics chip.
A lot of people are right off the bat said it looked like a circuit board, and sure enough.
There was one lady, some news lady, who actually decoded the Braille engrave on it, which was 192, I believe. And she had decoded the whole thing. And the people who actually put the hoax together were saying on a video that they should give her some kind of a medal for decoding that, because it's pretty genius of her. It's funny when you read those kind of stories, though. But it really is upsetting, though. What are some of the stories that you've read or you guys reported in the last year or two that really kind of like stuck in your mind that you look at and you're like, oh man, there's some authentic stuff here. Something really happened here.
Well, you know what? There's a story. I kind of always am thinking, recent stuff, because there's always cool stuff going on, I think. And that's another reason I like to write about it and then talk about it on the show. Hopefully people don't forget some of these great stories. And one of them recently is this story in London near Heathrow Airport. It's gotten a lot of play in the last couple of days in international news, although the Daily Mirror wrote about it on December 22nd, and that's where I saw it, and I wrote about it on the 26th. And now, a week and a half later, it's really starting to catch on. But this is interesting. So the UK government no longer investigates UFO cases. If you call them up and say, I saw a UFO, they're going to say, call somebody else, we don't care. When they shut down their UFO stuff, they even sent letters out to all of the to the police, everybody saying, don't come knocking at our door if you see a UFO. We don't care. We're not listening to it anymore. There is an agency, though, called the UK Air Prox Board, and they investigate near misses, including UFO near misses. And they've had a lot of really interesting things. They only meet like twice a year, and they go over, these near misses for safety concerns, because usually they're aircraft that are nearly hitting each other, and they want to find out why and try to avoid that from happening. But what they do is they will investigate these cases, and nearly every report that's come out recently has included a UFO near miss. And that's what this was in, I think it was in November or this summer, where this guy saw this shiny object.
Alejandro, let me stop you right there real quick, because it's really bad again. Do you have a cell phone that we can use?
Yeah, I do. Let me give that number to you right here.
Yeah, let's get you on that. I'm gonna hang up on the Skype, and I'm gonna call you on your cell phone because I really want to hear this story, and I don't want the audience to miss out on this. So let's do that. Let's get Alejandro on the line. And I hate calling numbers live on air, but this is Alejandro T. Rojas. I don't want to go to commercial break for another 3 minutes. I want to get this story out there, so let's get him on the cell phone real quick.
Sounds like a great idea, because while you're dialing, I'll keep the audience listening, because
they're going to hear a ringtone right now.
So okay, fine. Never mind. I guess I'll have to shut up then.
Yeah, be quiet.
Does that mean I have to shut up?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Hola.
Okay.
Well, there we go. Now, see, it sounds not like you're on the phone.
But at least we'll probably have a good connection.
Yes, it sounds a lot better. At least we don't have the gremlins killing us again tonight. The New World Order can back off. They can't mess with your cell phone connection. They can mess with your Skype, not your cell phone connection. But continue, man. This was sounding like a great story until you went all like staticky on us.
Right. So, yeah, this was a case, this Air Prox Board, I think you heard me about how the UK government says, don't call us if you see a UFO, we don't care.
Right,
but
I got that
the Air
part.
Prox Board is a safety group in the UK that look at near misses of aircraft, and a lot of times their cases include unknowns. And in this case, the pilot saw a cylindrical object headed for him. He physically ducked and grabbed his co-pilot because he didn't have time to say anything, he felt, and then looked up and the thing was gone. He asked the co-pilot if he had seen it, but the co-pilot was looking at some logs and things. So he was so freaked out about it, he turned this into the airprox board. He was certain he saw this large cylindrical object almost hit his aircraft. So they investigated it, and it's another case where, and they've had several of these interesting cases, where they couldn't determine what it was. But that was a really cool one that happened recently, and just in the last couple of days, it's starting to make some international news.
I haven't. Now, has that been posted on Open Minds? 'Cause I think I missed that story.
Well, that was on. A lot of people did because I posted it the day after Christmas.
Okay.
And so a lot of people were still on vacation and everything.
Well, I'm on vacation all the time unless I'm on air.
Yeah, cool. So, yeah, people would have to check that out. It was UFO near miss over London is what the name of the story is. But if you go to our website and check out London, you'll find it. In fact, there's a link to it in a recent story, more recent, where a UFO was caught on radar in Bremen, Germany, and this is a story new for today. And in Germany, essentially, they were tracking something on radar near the airport. They sent some people out to check it out, and nothing was seen. But this was something that was just caught on radar. And in that story, we linked to this story over London.
Gotcha. Interesting. Has there been like a... I wouldn't... You know, has there been sort of like a flood of reports over the last couple of years? Has there been an increase in UFO reports all over the world, or has it been kind of steady over the last 4 or 5 years? Because it didn't seem like, you know, we haven't had another Roswell since Roswell. You know, nothing that big. We haven't had another Travis Walton since Travis Walton happened. Nothing that big. You know, Stan Romanek got a lot of coverage a few years ago, but you know that came and went, and there's really been nothing else since then that's kind of taken the public. That's really been a few years. You know, has there, in your eyes, been kind of like a decline, so to speak, in the amount of information coming out that is impactful information or impactful cases?
Yeah, you know what? I would say kind of twofold, addressing first the number of reports. It just so happens I did my UFO hotspots of 2013 story where I take the MUFON.
Very good.
The MUFON data. Thank you. And yeah, because I don't see a lot of people doing this type of stuff, which I think is pretty important. Taking the actual data, putting it together, and looking for some trends. It showed they had 7,500 reports, which is about 1,000 up from a couple years ago. It's kind of been a fairly steady 6,000, a little more last year than the years prior.
No, he's there.
You know, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah. I don't know why Alan said, did we lose him? Alan, shh. He's speaking.
So,
go ahead.
Alan got in trouble. So there's still a lot of sightings, but like you said, impactful sightings. You know what? The last one I can really think of, really for me, was probably Chicago O'Hare, in Stephenville. But it's been a few years since those happened, and with both of those, Stephenville had a fairly limited number of witnesses. I think the best and most credible piece of evidence for Stephenville in 2008 was the MUFON report, where the director of research, Robert Powell, he's just a super awesome guy. In fact, he'll be speaking at the UFO Congress that we're going to be hosting in just about 4 weeks. And he'll be showing a video where he put this together. But he got with a guy who's an expert in radar, and a recognized expert in this, even in the mainstream. And they found that what the witnesses saw correlated with unknown targets from radar data from the FAA. That part of the story was really not covered in mainstream media, but that was certainly the best part of that story, because otherwise you've got a sighting with a few witnesses, but that happened, especially with no pictures or videos. So I thought that was the best part of that one. Prior to that, though, Chicago O'Hare was pretty exciting in that it was covered and investigated by the Chicago Tribune, which is a huge news agency, and the witnesses were pilots and personnel from United Airlines, because this craft, which was circular, dish-shaped, shot up through the clouds. This was seen by, all of these workers at United Airlines, and the Chicago Tribune talked to them, but like many of them had said, they couldn't give their names, they couldn't give the name of the airlines, they couldn't give any pictures or videos to the media because they were told by the airline, not to. And so the Tribune, John Hilkovich was his name, the writer, really documented the kind of the stonewalling that UFO investigators get. And when UFO investigators say, well, FAA didn't give me data, or, I didn't get this or that, they think that the UFO people are conspiracists and maybe they didn't try hard enough or whatever. But the Chicago Tribune found that, they found the exact same problems that UFO investigators find, where it's hard to get witnesses to be able to come forward, and it's hard to get that data that you need to really show that something extraordinary happened.
What do you think that is still? I mean, in today's day and age, I don't think there's any government agency tracking people down and tell them to hush up anymore. I think those days are long behind us. What do you think it's still kind of hard to track down any credible information?
Well, I think the hard part is these days, personally, and I think talking with people who have investigated and talked to the witnesses in all of these cases, none of them have been threatened by the government.
Right.
Some people will debate that with one of the witnesses in Stephenville, but that was one. Debatably, he didn't even really see the main events that the other people had saw that was correlated with the radar. But none of the other people had claimed that, and none of them had claimed that at United Airlines. I think in today's age of marketing, and, everybody's talking about reputation and your online reputations, that is just so guarded that for them, there's no good reason to do otherwise.
Right.
It's best just to say it was a weather phenomenon, because most people are going to say that's the best thing to do, that's a credible, mature thing to do, is to say it's weather phenomena and forget it. Whereas if you say it's a UFO, you're going to have a lot of people, it's going to be off-putting to a lot of people, you're going to take a hit with credibility, and they just kind of roll the dice and they make that gamble. Bruce Maccabee, he's been in this for a long time, he worked with the Navy, and I talked to him today, and we kind of actually hit on this topic, and he put it, I think, exactly right. The only thing that will change that kind of thing is when the majority of people really believe in this stuff. If United Airlines felt that, if they had said, yeah, we think it's UFO, that the majority of people would have said, great, we love United Airlines, this is going to be good for United Airlines,
here's the thing,
then they would have done it.
No, but hasn't this been already debated countless times that we are, as a society, kind of ready for the whole possibility of aliens being real? I mean, do you ask your average individual? In fact, I had this happen to me recently, Alejandro. I was having a conversation with somebody who was my boss, and I didn't even know it. I came to find out like a couple minutes after he left the office. This was a little while back, but not too long ago. And shout outs to John, the guy I'm talking about, by the way. Really cool guy. But anyway, he saw the website. I showed him a website because I was trying to sell him another website that he wanted to have done. And I was kind of going over some stuff, and he saw the radio show, and he's like, oh, you're into the aliens. I see the UFO picture there. And I see the Travis Walton interview, and he started going through the website, and he's like, oh, this is really interesting stuff. And I'm already turning red, and I'm like, oh boy, we're gonna have that awkward discussion, which is gonna lead, which is gonna lead to him saying, you're kind of a weirdo, aren't you? But you know what? That didn't happen, and it shocked me. You know what he said?
Mm-hmm.
He said, Angel, when I was a kid, I had a sighting with my mother, and I've never really talked about it. And in fact, this and this and this, and he went through the entire story of what happened to him for 30 minutes. This man was talking about, describing in full detail, the night that he had the sighting, exactly what happened. And I could tell he was being honest by the tone of his voice. Not only that, the guy was getting shivers just by talking about this thing. Like, he was getting goosebumps just by remembering this story. And again, he was very cool. Never had an issue with the radio show or with anything. In fact, he calls me every once in a while to ask me how's it going on the radio. He's heard the show. He's become a fan, which is kind of funny. But that happened to me not that long ago. I think the tide has turned a little bit. When you say in this country, at least in this country.
There are more people that right now believe than don't believe at this point.
There has to be, yeah, I believe that.
I don't agree with that.
Oh.
So, at least I'm not so sure. And it's twofold. I think we're close. I think we're really close to that tipping point, but I'm not so sure we're there. Just because if we look at the polls are usually anywhere from around a third to 50% of the people are comfortable or do believe in it. And usually more towards the third, sometimes closer to 50%. And I think it's moving in that direction. But in order for like the United Airlines to feel comfortable, I think the polls would need to be 50 to 75% consistently saying they believe in UFOs for people to really be out about that kind of thing. But I think we're getting close, and we're getting closer. And I would have, it's funny that you say that about your coworker, because I've had that experience. A lot of researchers I know.
My boss, Alejandro, one of my bosses, man. That was so awkward.
Yeah, it happened to me. One of my first, I started this job, and the news called and they said they wanted to interview me about UFOs. So I said, no problem, but you've got to park in the far parking lot. I don't want my work to know that I do this stuff. I was working at a data center. They come driving up, and my boss, along with all of the VP and the president, they're all in this meeting on the top floor, and they could see the news van coming up. And they were freaking out because they had unwittingly hosted some porn sites. And the news came and busted them on that. And when, they told the news, we'll shut it down. We didn't know that. These guys had been hosting, on our servers, but they're not supposed to be doing that. So they're like, oh, no, we're hosting another website. And so they start to freak. And my boss is the guy who they go to for this kind of stuff. So they said, well, we're going to have to look into this, Corey, do you know? And he said, no, don't worry. Because I had to tell my boss, just in case. He said, don't worry. It's Alejandro, and he's getting interviewed by the news about UFOs. And they all had a good laugh about it. But, a couple people did come to me. One guy in that meeting did come to me, and he said, hey, you're into UFOs? That's pretty cool. I had a sighting. And, it wasn't as bad of a thing as I thought it was. I was mortified when I found out that they knew, but it didn't turn out to be as bad as I thought. But I've heard so many of these stories where, you have your face with you need to maintain your credibility and everything at work. But when that gets broken, it's usually not as bad as you think. There are more people than we think into it. But unfortunately, we're not at that point yet. But I think we're getting closer to where people are comfortable, or they think it's something that's going to be exciting and good for them. But these stories that are blockbusters, and this may be a way that the marketing type of things help, because NVIDIA probably, and they even said they had no clue that their crop circle story would get so huge. The Canadian Science Center said the same thing. They had no idea the story would get so huge because these people think they're having a lot of fun, but they don't realize how big the interest is out there in these topics. And when they learn that, they're thinking, hey, this is a good thing. We need to push this UFO edge. And once, that word gets around, hopefully maybe we will have United saying, hey, we think that was a UFO. And hopefully feeling like, and hopefully getting a lot of positive response saying, hey, it's great that you guys are not hiding stuff and coming forward or whatever. Unfortunately, especially with marketing, and I know this firsthand, the truth is secondary to what are the benefits for the company or for us.
Correct. Yep. You're absolutely right. And unless, of course, the company you're working for somehow is involved in alien tech knowledge or stuff that has to do with microchips and all kinds of stuff, then they love that kind of attention. Which it would be kind of ironic if we do one day find out that microchips and all that stuff came from Roswell, came from a downed UFO.
ironic.
and these guys are going viral on technology that kind of is the cousin of something that came from the Roswell crash. You know, we just had Mac Maloney on in the first hour, and he's not a believer, Alejandro, of Roswell. He thinks that it was a weather balloon. He really buys into that whole story. That's the one thing that me and Mac do not agree on in a lot of the subjects. Me and him do have agreements on, but what's your take? I know you're a believer at the Roswell. That Roswell was a UFO, right?
He's not a believer of the extraterrestrial hypothesis either. He doesn't think that's the most likely. And I love Mac Maloney. He's awesome. I mean, I love that guy. On Roswell, I think we don't know what happened. I think when you look at all of the witnesses that first Stanton got, people don't realize the story, I think, about how this all started, which was, the crash happened in 1947. It got out in the news. They debunked it. Nobody thought about it or even knew about it. Ufologists didn't know about this case until Stanton Friedman in the 70s heard of Jesse Marcel and interviewed him. Well, the first thing Stanton Friedman does is not to go blab it to the world or write a book. He investigates.
Oh, yeah, he does his due diligence, to say the least.
Yeah.
Exactly. So him and his partner, they found 100 witnesses before the first book was written. So you have a lot of witnesses saying, yes, something happened, and I don't think it was a balloon. The guy who found the balloon, the guy who, the press, the guy who wrote the press release to the news. So, yeah, you do have, and there were no negative repercussions on any of these men. In fact, their careers blossomed afterwards. So I think you have a lot of circumstantial and otherwise and eyewitnesses that something happened that we don't have the full story on what had happened. Whatever it was is certainly very, very secret. And you do have an abundance of witnesses who say there were extraterrestrials there. So that's a tough one. I mean, I think that I certainly don't think it was a balloon. I certainly don't think it was mogul. None of those things make any sense when you look at the evidence. The argument for these things is that these people's memories are jogged and they don't remember what they saw. And these are people who weren't there, who often haven't even talked to the witnesses who are saying these things. So those are not fair assessments whatsoever. And so, their investigations are just kind of ridiculous, really. So, yeah, we don't have the full story yet. So I think that it is it's a big case, and I wish, that there would be some serious resources behind really getting to the meat of things. I mean, it's large news agencies.
They don't want They don't want to touch it. The big news agencies, they're afraid of it,
and they have more power. Which for the Chicago Tribune, when it came to Chicago O'Hare, they did a FOIA to the FAA. The FAA said nothing happened at Chicago O'Hare when there was that sighting. They did a FOIA the very next day. FAA is saying, "Oh, we're sorry, we were wrong. We looked at the data. Here it is. There was something there, but we think it was weather phenomena." That's not going to happen for any UFO researcher. It's going to take you months, weeks, maybe years to get that sort of data out of FAA, if ever for a regular researcher. So it just demonstrates how these big news agencies have a lot more pull. If any of them would just take this serious and really put some resources behind it, there would be some discoveries to be made.
We had recently Jesse Marcel III on the show here. In fact, one of our first guests on the show on Skywatchers here, since we relaunched, was Jesse Marcel III. And listening to him talk, he grew up listening to his father, talk about this, his grandfather talk about this Roswell incident, and they were very sure of what they saw. They were very convinced of what they saw. And I was recently corrected on Future Theater with Bill and Nancy Burns, by the way. I got to say this because on that show with Jesse Marcel, we said that it was Jesse Marcel Sr. who brought the story out to the world, but really Stanton Friedman was very much responsible for bringing the Roswell story back to the world and making it it kind of like a viral thing where everybody knew about it, even viral back then. But
Yeah.
everybody knew about it. So Stan Friedman really is the leading researcher in the whole Roswell crash. And you're right, he's done extensive research. And there's nothing worse than being corrected on something you did on your show on another show while you're producing that show. Thank you, Nancy.
Happens to me all the time, unfortunately. I mean, we're all fallible, and none of our brains are perfect recorders. So, yeah, but it's always fun when someone says, "Well, you said this on the show, and actually it's this." You know, like, oh man.
Especially when I wasn't paying attention, I'm like, "Huh?" And I'm like, "It's Stanton Friedman. Don't correct me in front of Stanton Friedman. That's not cool." That's
yeah.
Sorry, Stanton.
That is.
Sorry, man.
But you're right. Yeah, that's what's incredible. Stanton gets all the props for Roswell. We wouldn't know about, the public wouldn't know, UFO researchers, no one would know about the Roswell incident if it wasn't for Stanton Friedman following up on that stuff. And so, he did an amazing job with that.
And to get Jesse Marcel Sr. to come forward after all those years, and it was a guy at a ham radio that really convinced him it was time to come forward. I'm thinking, and hear me out on this one, I think that might have been a young Art Bell on that ham radio of his talking to Jesse Marcel Sr. saying, one day I'm going to host a show, and it's going to be really big, and we're going to talk about this. I need stories, man. I need you to come forward. Please tell us what you know, because Art loves his ham radio. So that's always been something that I thought maybe happened, and maybe in my dreams. Maybe one day I'll write a book and I'll just throw that in there as a little fan fiction. What do you think?
It could be. I don't know. I mean, what's funny with Art Bell is Art Bell and his ham radio and everything. I mean, he's I think one of the pioneers in this field where, everybody thinks of him as a radio host, but he's done a lot of uncovering of information himself that, a lot of times I dig into these stories and you find, Art Bell had something to do with it. So.
No kidding. He was one of the people that I looked up to for years, just listening to his show and getting into the subject. That I was really into. It was just having that voice, and now, like we said earlier, there's 1,000 different radio shows on the subject. We're all like the children of Art Bell, in a way.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
And, the whole hotspot in 2013, that really piqued my interest because Florida, number 2, huh? Finally, we're on a list that has nothing to do with crime, and we're number 2.
Well, hold on. Alien
Florida.
Abductions are a crime. Hold on.
Well, it depends.
Abductions a crime.
Depends on how you look at it. Let's be real here. If an alien ship comes around, you don't have to beam me up or shoot me with a laser. I'm willing to climb up a rope ladder. Just throw something down. I'll climb up. I'll be there for you because I want to go on a ride. I want to see some aliens. So I don't look at it as a negative thing. Even Travis Walton, who is the most famous abductee probably in the history of abductees, looks at it as maybe what happened to me was kind of an accident. They accidentally killed me, or I killed myself by walking too close to the ship. And these guys revived me. They actually did me a favor. So how bad really could the aliens be if that's the case? You know what I mean?
Although he says that the parts he doesn't remember of his experience, he doesn't want to remember because it was so terrifying on board.
Well, you can imagine. I mean, just being in front of a being that looks completely different from anything you've ever seen before. It's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, it would be.
Well,
I mean, I remember his story, the one moment, sorry to cut you off, the one moment of solace that he said he had on that ship was when he saw human-looking people, and for a moment there, he felt like he was going to be okay, and then that didn't happen. But go ahead, Alan.
No, I was going to say, besides him, don't forget Betty and Barney Hill, and they did not have a positive experience either.
What's funny about that, too, is that, kind of similar thing where he's like, well, you're not going to remember this. On board, they told Betty Hill, you're not going to remember this. She said, yes, I am. They said, no, you're not. She said, yes, I will. And they said, no, you're not. And they're like, well, why would you want to remember this? We cover up the bad parts you don't remember. And then we go try to remember, and then you get terrified by what people find out. So it's kind of a funny thing.
Well, I don't know if I call that funny, but...
If they told you, yeah, funny in a non-funny way.
I don't know if it was really a negative experience, though. I mean, she saw a star map. She described it. She didn't exactly say that they were like beating her up either. I mean, the experience was kind of gentle, really, when you think about it. She had a conversation with the alien.
Well, that part, but prior to that, they did some examination, and that was a little bit less
rough.
Well, yeah, there's that probing, again, that we talk about all the time in ufology.
Yeah.
That nasty probing. Do you find that actually, in a lot of the cases, do you find that people remember that at all when they've come forward with saying that they have been probed, or is it something that they remember in regression almost every single time because it's such a bad experience to be probed? Where?
It seems to be mostly regression. I mean, when people talk about remembering what they remember when they're not under, it's kind of generalities. I think I remember some experiments, or I remember they did something to me. It's really general terms. I kind of remember something, but the detailed stuff usually comes when they go through regression. And it often is stuff that is, like the doctor says, a little untraceable. Or like they say, you're gonna feel a little pressure. I think they feel a little pressure.
Yeah, a little pressure. We're going to have Dr. Lear on pretty soon, and we were talking to Jose Escamilla recently, and Dr. Lear, of course, famous for the removal of implants and stuff. Has there been any recent updates that you know of with any of the implants that's been removed? Any technologies or anything that we could look at and be like, man, that's definitely alien? Besides some weird looking little objects.
That's a difficult thing, and that would be something that, because I don't know what the status of Dr. Lear. He's got reports from a technician, and he says that he thinks these metals are something that are otherworldly. But, of course, a lot more has to be done, and you need more than one expert to confirm whether or not that's the case. And usually you'll need someone, that and data that peers can look at. So I hope he moves forward with that stuff so we can really find out, what's going on there.
Recently we lost Lloyd Pye, also not to jump subjects too much, but Lloyd Pye was working, of course, on the Star Child skull. How much of an impact that have on you, losing Lloyd Pye?
Well, he was a really nice guy. We had him at the conference, the UFO Congress recently, and he was a really nice guy. I thought he was really cool. I'm not sure if, his Star Child skull was a smoking gun, but here again, there needed to be more work to figure that out. It could be something more mysterious. So hopefully that work happens. What is more difficult, too, than I think a lot of people don't realize is that, as we all know, money doesn't grow on trees, and it's really hard to get people to look at this kind of stuff, and there has to be some sort of benefit. When it comes to science, people aren't there to throw money. Hey, that looks pretty weird. I'll throw money at it and look at it. Typically, the money isn't going to be thrown at it unless it can be figured out how money is going to be made off of the results. So that's where science comes from. There's a lot of really important science when it comes to medical issues that doesn't get done because, they can't figure out how to make money off of the research that they do. And, everything, especially in the good of U.S. of A., revolves around money. So the money for anomalous investigation is just not there.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? That's the reason why I know for a fact marijuana will be legalized pretty soon because there's going to be so much money coming in from that. It's going to be legal all over the U.S. Look, in Colorado, $1 million in revenue already in the first day. Incredible numbers.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right.
So, where there's money, there'll be legalizations. And yeah, you're right. There really is very little money in researching, especially, unless you really hit the gold mine. And let's say they really do find that this Star Child's call is alien or part alien. Let's say they verify it, then you have the gold mine where you can make a lot of money off of it. But if not, that's a lot of money wasted where you're not going to make any money back. And it didn't look too promising the last couple of tests that they had on there. Alejandro, listen, we're almost out of time. Want to give you a chance to go ahead and give again the show times for your show. Of course, the website, Open Minds .tv. Any other links you want to give out, please do so. The audience, of course, please follow Alejandro Rojas. He's a very important person in the world of ufology, and I want to give you a minute now to go ahead and give everybody your links and where they can find you.
All right. First, thanks for the kind words. But yeah, openminds.tv is where you're going to find everything, and ufocongress.com. Of course, you'll find links to UFO Congress, our radio show, everything at openminds.tv. But the UFO Congress is coming up, and we have a lot of really cool people there. We've got some of their, regular UFO researchers. We've got like Timothy Good from England, who's a big researcher. We've got George Norrie's going to be there. This guy Aaron Sangers, who is on MTV's Paranormal Pop Culture, is going to be there. But we also have some scientists like Jeffrey Bennett. We have the director of research of MUFON. We have a NASA scientist who's going to talk about how extraterrestrial life, we already have evidence of that. And he made some international news earlier, about a couple of times last year with the group he's working with, where they're a group of scientists saying, hey, we already have evidence. So we've got a lot of really interesting stuff, and people can read more about that at openminds.tv or ufocongress.com.
That is awesome. Alejandro, we got to have you back on here really soon, and from time to time, man. I love talking to you, and of course, if anybody's going to give the news, you read a lot better than I do, brother. So, come on the show and tell us what's going on in the world of ufology. Love to hear back from you soon on Skywatchers Radio.
Anytime, man.
You're a good man. This is so trippy for me because, like I said earlier, I was I've had you on the show, once or twice before in the past, but nothing on this stage. And of course, you are the gentleman who I first heard online talking about UFOs. It's because of you. It's a
great honor, and
partly I'm here.
It was great to have you back then as, one of the listeners, and always getting enthusiastic about and conversing, and everything. And it's awesome now that you have your own show. So honored to have gotten you interested in having your own show, and I'm really happy that you've done it, and you're doing well.
Some people would say it's all your fault and are going to hate on you for that. I'm just saying.
You know what? I'll take it. Bring it on.
Alejandro, you're a good man. Thank you so much for being here, my friend, and we will be in contact about having you back on here pretty soon. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Alejandro T. Rojas, everybody.
Thank you.
Alan, we're almost out of time. We have maybe a couple more minutes here before we have to wrap it up for the night. It's been definitely an interesting evening here on Skywatchers Radio, and
absolutely.
Anytime you can have the guests that we've had on since we've been on Dark Matter Radio Network, and just to have this level of guests show up really speaks volumes for this network, for the show, and we're going to keep getting those guests here every week. We have Brooks Agnew is going to be coming up pretty soon, and Steve Bassett, who of course is one of my heroes in ufology, also will be on the show here pretty soon. This is the Dark Matter Radio Network, and of course PSN Radio. I am Angel Espino. This is Alan Weiler, and of course we just had Mr. Alejandro T. Rojas and Mac Maloney on Skywatchers Radio. Good night, everybody, and we'll be back next Tuesday. And real quick, before we do get off, I want to announce pretty soon we're going to be making a big move, and of course, our webmaster and chief of Dark Matter Radio Network made this happen, Keith Rowland. It's going to allow us to move a little bit later on the night. So that would be really cool. We'll be able to take over the overnight hour. Pretty soon, I'm really excited about that, Alan. I know you're excited as all heck to go on a little bit later.
Absolutely. Since I'm nocturnal by nature, I'd rather be wide awake in the middle of the night than sleeping.
We'll be back next week. Good night, everybody. Take care.
Be safe and enjoy watching the stars.
Peace.